Please rise for the presentation of the colors by the North Hollywood Cadet Honor Guard and the national anthem sung by Police Officer Rosalind Curry.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, their bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
For the invocation from Reverend Nancy Frausto of the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles.
In the name of the loving, liberating, life-giving God, we gather this morning to celebrate the many accomplishments of the last year and to ask your blessing, O loving God, on the future plans for the City of Angels. As we move forward, we ask that you bless our mayor and all our elected officials with wisdom, patience, and courage to stand for what is right. May they always remember the faces of all the Angelinos they have been called to serve. God of peace, fill us with the knowledge that even in times of discord and unrest, you are with us. Lead us, O God, into your light. God of love, you have commanded us to love one another, so let us love. And because we love, we vow to look out for the poor, for the homeless, the unemployed, and the underemployed. God of justice, you have charged us with the responsibility to fight for what is right. We are called to disrupt the corrupt systems that hurt our brothers and sisters. May we be audacious enough to stand firm against those who lead with fear, with hatred and violence. We are blessed in this city of Los Angeles with a beautiful diversity, a diversity that makes us stronger. May we be a beacon of light in a country lacking moral leadership. May this city be a safe place for all people. May this city, filled with dreamers, with immigrants, with working families, with people of different faiths. May we be leaders and agents for change. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 42nd Mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti.
Can't stop, addicted to the shindig. Chop top, it says I'm gonna win big. Choose not to life of imitation. Just get closer to the reservation. Free funk the pistol that you pay for. This pump the feeling that you stay for. In time I want to be your best friend. Eastside love is living on the West End. Knocked out before you better come to.
Thank you all. Thank you. Sit, please. Thank you all. Good morning, everyone. Every year, I think about the best place that we can gather for this occasion, a place that speaks to our city's present, to its past, and to its future. And so for my 5th State of the City address, I wanted to return right here, to these chambers, where, as Robert Kennedy once described, Angelenos engage in the hard, messy work of democracy, where visitors from around the world come to learn about our city's incredible history, and where leaders chart a course to improve Angelenos' lives today and to build the Los Angeles of tomorrow. I'm so honored to be before you again today, to be in front of 4 million Angelenos who give this city life. Our neighborhood council, business and labor leaders, commissioners and council members, visiting mayors, school board members, Council President Herb Wesson and the entire City Council, City Attorney Feuer and Controller Galperin, and of course, my family, my mother and father, sister, cousin, uncle, who are here with us today. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. And the 2 women in my life who are not here today, one stuck on a tarmac, your First Lady, Amy Elaine Wakeland, and one stuck at school, our beloved Maya. Thank you all for being here. You know, about 2 weeks ago, I looked at the calendar and realized that I had arrived at the midpoint of my time as your mayor, a milestone that lends special symmetry to this moment, bringing a new opportunity to reflect on where we are now and to look forward to the future we are building together. That's why we are gathered here today, to dream about all that we can do and to plan for all that I know we will do, to build an even better Los Angeles. And if this year has taught us anything, it is to continue to think big, to go after what seems unreachable. It has reminded us that power doesn't exist someplace else. It's right here in our hands, in the neighborhoods where we live and work, where we pray and dream. It's a good thing that power is here in Los Angeles, because we are living in an exceptional city that is thriving, strong, stable, and decent. We can't say that right now about Washington, D.C., where leaders clap their hands when immigrants are pushed into the shadows, where corporations' needs are placed above those of a single mother, where our coastline is offered up to the highest bidder with an oil drill. You see, something different lives here in Los Angeles. Here in this city, we stand shoulder to shoulder with a homeless family. Here in this city, community college is tuition-free for every young person who graduates from our public schools. In this city, we raise the minimum wage because we still believe that an honest day's work deserves an honest day's pay. In Washington, they are defining themselves by how they can divide us and what they can take away from us, from our health care to our voting rights. But here in Los Angeles, we define our success by what we give to one another, how we empower and bring a city together. As DC perfects the art of division and subtraction, we embody the power of addition and multiplication. Think about it for a moment, what we're doing here in Los Angeles. Since I took office, employment has soared to new heights, with jobs building new and expanded rail like the Expo line, raising up buildings like the Wilshire Grand, and breaking ground on new landmarks like the Lucas Museum. And since I came before you last year, I am proud to report that Los Angeles won the gold. And we are bringing the Olympic and Paralympic Games back home here in 2028. And just like the world's greatest athletes we will do in 2028, we're going to keep breaking records on everything from the number of streets we pave to the number of visitors who come to explore our city on those streets. In fact, since 2013, we have paved 11,000 miles of road. To put that in perspective, that's like 4 lanes between here and our nation's capital. We raised a minimum wage that has already put $1.8 billion back in the pockets of working people and in the businesses on our main streets. And employers are flourishing here too. In fact, 222,000 new businesses have said here in the last 5 years, I want to start right here in Los Angeles. Everything from e-commerce firms to brick and mortar businesses that are now hanging open for business signs where it once said for rent. We pushed for these things. A city hall that wouldn't kill jobs, but that would create jobs. Because they were the right thing to do, and because they work, and also because they put people back to work. My pledge to get back to basics is not an end goal. It is a never-ending pursuit. And after 5 years of holding ourselves accountable, of opening up and sharing our data with the public, of using evidence to guide how we target and deliver services, LA was the only city in the nation to win this year's first Gold Award from Bloomberg Philanthropies for the best run city in America. With the leaders you see up here and the workers who are out there, City Hall is working again. And so are Angelenos. In fact, we've added 156,000 new jobs to the people of our city. We've done this by executing on a 3-part economic strategy. First, support key industries that will grow the jobs of the future. Second, invest in infrastructure so that commerce can prosper for generations to come. And third, while we're adding jobs and building infrastructure, make sure we leave no one behind. We began with key industries. We supported a film tax credit that has already brought more than $5 billion and more than 40,000 jobs back to our brothers and sisters right here over the last 3 years. We then brought 4 counties together so that we could compete for and win a designation to energize local aerospace manufacturing. To date, $1.3 billion of government and private money has helped us retool our assembly lines and retrain our workforce. From Silicon Beach to South LA, from the West Valley to the East Side, we are investing in tomorrow's technologies today. Companies like Netflix, Apple, and Spotify, they're setting up shop here and growing their presence. Last month, in fact, we attracted over 14,000 diverse, well-educated Angelenos for our 2nd annual Tech Jobs Fair, one of the largest in the country. And we passed Measure M, the nation's largest ever local infrastructure package. Thank you, LA County voters, because with your help, we will generate $120 billion, build and expand 15 rapid transit lines, fix our freeways, and create 777,000 middle-class careers over the next 4 decades. Our Clean Tech Incubator, alongside new investments in renewable energy, helped make Los Angeles the #1 solar city in America. Part of 29,000 new green jobs we've added over the last 5 years. Let's put that into perspective. That's more than the coal jobs in this nation that we have lost over that same period of time, with just 1% of the population here. At this rate, we'll meet our goal of more than 72,000 jobs generated here in Los Angeles by 2025. You see, LA, we have the confidence to look up to the stars, and we have the guts to realize our dreams. And we're just getting started. Here, where the space race launched, here, where we helped in Councilmember Blumenfield's district build space shuttles, here, where the Mars rover was invented, the next chapter of that story is underway. And today, I am pleased to officially announce that SpaceX will start production development of the big Falcon rocket in the port of Los Angeles. This is a vehicle that holds the promise of taking humanity even deeper into the cosmos than ever before. And this isn't just about reaching the heavens. It's about creating jobs right here on Earth. This is the kind of city where in a few years, a girl in Canoga Park can visit the Lucas Museum and see how a great filmmaker envisioned space travel, and go next door to the California Science Center and see how we actually did it with the Space Shuttle Endeavour. Across the street from USC, where Neil Armstrong got his degree in aerospace engineering. That girl could be the first human being to set foot on Mars. And she'd join a long line of Angelinos who don't just mark history, we make history. And now look, if Angelinos can put people on Mars, you'd think we can get people home on time. Traffic is a thief. It steals precious time we could spend with our loved ones. Billions of dollars that could go into our economy and higher wages. Which brings me to the second part of our economic strategy, which has been to reimagine our city's infrastructure. This is LA's infrastructure moment. I've always tried to govern by looking far beyond the time that I've been gifted to be your mayor. Because setting progress in motion is much more important than being there for every ribbon cutting. And we need in this country and in this city leadership that isn't caught up in the moment, but that can see the future. That's why we're rebuilding our port and our airport, investing in the LA River, and why we led the most ambitious local transportation measure in American history, ×2. And after Measure M passed, we didn't rest. We hit the accelerator with 28 by 28 metro projects that are in the fast lane to be done before the Olympics and Paralympics arrive. And as chair of Metro, I'm proud to announce, and thank you, Supervisor, for your great work on this, that the Crenshaw LAX line will open by the end of next year. After 40 years of dreaming, of talking about bringing public transportation to LAX, we're finally getting the job done. Just last week, we all awarded the largest contract in the history of this city for the People Mover, a tram that will take you from that train to the terminals. And we're keeping our promise to the voters. We've already broken ground on the first Measure M projects that will transform our communities and our commutes. From Claremont to Century City, the gold and purple line are stretching our system further east and west. We're expanding Metro's reach in the San Fernando Valley. And the regional connector recently finished tunneling here in downtown, bringing us one step closer to a one-seat ride from Boyle Heights to the beach. We'll take it together. Importantly, these new lines, we've said along them that 35% of any new Metro housing be affordable housing, so that everyday Angelinos can spend more time at their destination and less time getting to it, less time stressed out about displacement and high rent. And while we're investing in those key industries to secure future jobs, while we're rebuilding our future infrastructure, we're also working to confront inequality head-on, which brings me to my third pillar, ensuring that economic opportunity is available for everyone. We are building housing now at a faster rate than we've seen in 3 decades. We're more than doubling the pace of affordable housing construction. And even in the face of previous state and ongoing federal cuts, we've led the way to expand affordable housing. Joined by champions right here on the City Council, I asked voters to pass Proposition HHH to deliver 10,000 units of housing for chronically homeless Angelenos and affordable housing for Angelenos on the brink of homelessness. And they did. And then last year, I asked this city council from this very podium to pass the linkage fee, and you did. Together, these two efforts were more than double the production of affordable housing and preservation of affordable housing, and create more than 1,000 jobs for Angelenos every year. Thank you, Los Angeles City Council. You see, we cannot end an affordability crisis if we don't invest in new housing. And we cannot add jobs if companies expand in other cities because workers can't find a decent place to live. We cannot move forward as a city if people are locked out of opportunity. And that's why I launched new programs as your mayor to connect veterans, foster youth, formerly incarcerated and homeless Angelenos with careers, to make sure that everybody can come along on this wonderful journey. That's why 4 years ago, I set the goal of connecting 10,000 my fellow veterans with jobs in our city. And I'm proud to announce today that we have connected 10,800 veterans with employment right here in LA. And even though we've hit our goal, we're going to keep on going. And that's the same reason I stood up an office of reentry for the first time since the great Tom Bradley was our mayor. An office that helps cut crime, create jobs, and deliver hope. In California, the average person released from incarceration has more than a 66% chance of going back behind bars. That's expensive. That's dangerous. So we started the New Roads to Second Chances program with Caltrans. It's connected 350 women and men with jobs improving our freeways. And our recidivism rate, 1.4%. Here in LA, we'd rather have someone cleaning a street than sleeping on it. And we're always investing in the people of our city. We do these things because they're the right things to do, but we also do them because they work. And the cost of inaction is too great. When people get left behind, all of us pay the price. Still, there are Angelenos like so many Americans who feel that they are working harder and longer for less and less. They can't save enough to retire, to send their kids to college. They're frustrated by rising mortgages and rents and worried about making ends meet. It speaks to LA's incredible creativity that the Tesla Model X was designed here, but we have people who are sleeping in cars tonight. Want the best food city in America? It's definitely LA, but there are people who are hungry this evening. I've often said that we won't be judged by what we say today, but what we do tomorrow. No matter how high we climb, no matter how many records we break, our progress will be measured by how many people we leave behind. But what's happening here is not unique to this city, but our response to it is. Los Angeles is now coming together to confront the greatest moral and humanitarian crisis of our time, homelessness. In this city, we're pushing past skepticism. And I will accept nothing less than a home for every person who needs a roof under their head. Let me be clear once again, we are here to end homelessness. Accepting things the way they are is unacceptable. And we've already come a long way. 4 years ago, city and county weren't working well together. Today, we are working hand in hand. 4 years ago, communities might have resisted building supportive housing in their neighborhoods. Today, every single member of this council has pledged to put a minimum of 222 units in neighborhoods across Los Angeles over the next 2 years. Four years ago, there was less than $20 million in our budget to combat homelessness. Today, my budget will include $430 million to take this crisis head on. 4 years ago, we had no long-term funding, but today the voters of Los Angeles have radically reshaped our future and given us a mandate to end homelessness over the next decade. 4 years ago, City Hall wasn't effectively on the ground. We weren't delivering comprehensive services to lift people out of homelessness for good. But today, my No Wrong Door executive directive requiring all city departments to enlist in this fight is in full effect. Libraries help homeless patrons get IDs to access essential services. Our fire department has a sober unit that delivers Angelenos who are struggling with addiction to treatment programs instead of cycling them in and out of ERs. Our police department helped us create a shelter bed database so that outreach workers can connect people with a bed that's available in real time. And we opened up the refresh spot on Skid Row to offer toilets, showers, laundry services, dignity for the folks who are living at the epicenter of this crisis. Now, anyone who has spoken to our homeless neighbors knows that every one of them has their own unique story. No two people living in Skid Row and the Sepulveda Basin ended up there for the same reasons. But there is a common thread among all Angelenos who are unsheltered, and that is the need to find a safe place to sleep while we help them find a stable home and a better future. Ending homelessness happens one interaction at a time. We need supportive housing, but the journey home starts with a human being extending his or her hand to an Angeleno in desperate need. In 2015, in the city of LA, we only had 9 LAHSA outreach workers for tens of thousands of homeless people. Now the voters have given us a green light, and we're staffing up. Together with the county, partners, nonprofit, community groups, Los Angeles is hiring more than 1,000 people to be an army of social workers, mental health professionals, housing navigators, and anti-addiction specialists. Men and women who will be the hearts and the brain and the muscle of our effort to move people out from a tent and under a roof. Too often, outreach workers promise a shelter bed to someone, but they can't match it to that neighborhood where that person is living. And people don't want to go to the other side of the city to get a bed to sleep in. Now that Measure H dollars are flowing, we can finally bring relief to people where they are. It is time for tents to come down in our neighborhoods. We need to stand up emergency shelters fast, and we need to do it now. Shelters that serve as a rest stop on the path to permanent housing. Which is why today I am proud to announce the next step in our plan to get homeless people off of LA's streets, an effort I'm calling A Bridge Home. As services begin to ramp up, as we continue the work of building the supportive housing that we need over the next decade, a gap still remains in neighborhoods across our city. Homeless Angelenos can't wait years to get off our streets. We need more options for bringing them inside now. This week, thanks to the City Council, we will put in place an emergency shelter crisis declaration so we can build shelters across LA as quickly as possible, bypassing red tape and regulations that would slow down the urgency of that construction. And my budget will include $20 million from the general fund, divided amongst all 15 council districts, giving communities across LA a chance to stand up shelters, to open beds for homeless neighbors this year. It is time. Thousands of Angelenos have become homeless simply because they lost a job, faced a divorce, a health crisis, or missed out on a couple of rent payments, and suddenly they found themselves living out of a car. They don't always need long-term services, so some folks will stay in these shelters a few weeks, where we can connect them to a job or a rapid rehousing voucher. Once they've gotten back on their feet, we'll turn that bed over to someone else 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a year. Others will need to stay as much as 6 months before they're ready to move somewhere permanent, but everybody will get the help that they need. And the county, thanks to our Board of Supervisors, is standing by to supply those shelters with the services that voters approved: health care, addiction treatment, and referrals to permanent places to live. When the new budget dollars come online, I will sign an executive directive to move all emergency shelter applications to the top of our planning and building and safety stack. No exceptions. Bureaucracy will not slow us down. So, how will this work? First, every council member will look at existing encampments, find locations for nearby shelters, and start in on construction. And we're going to make sure these shelters aren't just in communities, but that they are part of the community, like Councilmember Rodriguez has done with her Good Neighbor policy in the North Valley. Second, the county will deploy intensive outreach teams to work in those same neighborhoods. Homeless Angelenos will be greeted each morning by social workers who know their name, whom they can trust, and who will help them make the transition indoors. Finally, once we move people out of tents, we're going to make sure that the neighborhoods with new shelters stay safe and clean. In this year's budget, I am directing new teams and providing the funds for them that are dedicated exclusively to cleaning up the streets where encampments once stood. But here's the catch. That money can only be used where our homeless neighbors have a place to go. We can't sweep or move homelessness away. We must give people a place to stay. We're not going to wash down sidewalks one day only to see an encampment return the next and people not helped. It doesn't get a single person off the street with that strategy. It doesn't help clean up a neighborhood for good. The logic here is simple. First come, first served. Districts that stand up emergency shelters, and only those districts will get the benefit of the new sanitation teams. This is my commitment to you and the communities that you represent. If you have the courage to stand up a shelter in your district, you should get the resources and the reward to keep your neighborhoods clean. And the first council member has already stepped up. Your council president, Herb Wesson, has identified a site in his district where the city will build new temporary crisis housing. I think you'll hear a little bit more about it this week. Council President, thank you for leading the way. You can't see the little badge you got up there. But I know that the rest of this council is already hard at work as well. Council members Bonin, O'Farrell, Harris-Dawson, Krikorian, Price, Buscaino, and Cedillo already have wasted no time in joining this movement to bring people home now, identifying places that we can be weeks and months from now, taking tents down and putting people in beds. This is the right thing to do for our neighborhoods. It's the right thing to do for our homeless brothers and sisters. It may not be easy work, but my promise to you, City Council members, is I will always stand with you, every step of the way. As you make the case to your constituents, at community meetings, wherever you go, I will be there with you because this is the path out of the crisis. And one of the most heartwarming things I've seen in my time as mayor is the steady decline of NIMBYism. I've seen this council act, but I've seen Los Angeles act too. Angelenos who are standing up every day and saying, please bring supportive housing to my neighborhood. And we're engaging community leaders in this effort. Last week I met with business leaders, service providers, and most impressively, the 44 neighborhood council homelessness liaisons to brief them on this plan. And they all plan to work closely with city council members to identify sites, to build support for safe parking and shelter and storage for homeless Angelenos. It starts right here at City Hall, where everyone shares in this responsibility of ending this crisis. We know we can pull together. When there's an earthquake or a fire, every city department sits at the same table. We share information and expertise, make decisions together. We're doing the same thing with homelessness now. We've been convening multiple city departments around the same table every week since last year. And today I am expanding that work by creating a unified command center where all critical city departments will be represented. So an Angeleno, thank you. So that an Angeleno who's worried about that elderly woman living under the underpass can alert us with one phone call, and we can send into action together an outreach worker, a fire department paramedic, and an expert from our Department of Aging. We have learned so much over the last 4 years. We've learned from our efforts to mobilize community leaders, And we've learned from our work to stand up the city's newest shelter, which will open up in El Pueblo, the birthplace of our city, this summer. And Councilmember Huizar, thank you for your steadfast commitment to that project. Those lessons have already helped us make powerful strides. We've doubled the pace of housing homeless Angelenos since I became your mayor. In fact, a lot of people are surprised to learn that we have housed 30,000 people over the last 4 years. That's more than 30,000 mothers, seniors, veterans, emancipated foster youth, who today still might be on the streets were it not for our efforts. This work matters. And we're moving even faster thanks to the voters who passed those 2 life-changing measures. I think we all get asked all the time, where are those dollars? Well, Measure H dollars just started flowing in October. We've already broken ground on new Triple H-funded homes, and I want to thank Councilmember O'Farrell, who has the first HHH project in the city in his district. I could go on and on about how great that district is, but, you know, I love all my children equally, just one of them a little bit more. 2018 will be the first full year that we will feel the impact of HHH dollars. And this year, thanks to the voters, we will invest $238 million to build 1,500 new housing units across 24 projects in the districts of all of these council members. What we're doing works, but we have to keep steady in the fight and never give up hope, because we have permanently changed lives in this city. We've housed more homeless veterans than anybody else, 8,400 men and women who wore this nation's uniform. And in the last half of 2017, just the last half of last year, Angelenos helped 8,000 people, together with the county, to get into housing. But let me be clear, if we want to keep accelerating our efforts to meet this crisis with the urgency that it demands, we need more help. These aren't just Angelenos who are caught in the grip of homelessness on our streets. They're Californians, too. Washington can't keep cutting back programs that help people hold on to affordable homes. And here in California, from San Diego to Fresno, homelessness isn't an issue. Homelessness is the issue. When I met with Governor Brown and legislative leaders last week, I told them Los Angeles has put our local dollars on the line. We've stepped forward to lead. Now we need Sacramento to do the same thing. Californians are amazing, and they've generated a $6 billion budget surplus that's in the state's back pocket. But those are our tax dollars. It's the bounty of our hard work, and it needs to come back to the communities where it was generated. That's why I'm leading the call of California's mayors and local officials for Sacramento to deliver $1.5 billion of that surplus for immediate aid to shelter our homeless neighbors today. That legislation, AB 3171, would help the cities of LA County get nearly $646 million this year. Sacramento, local governments are leading on this. We're in the trenches. We know it works. So help us handle this for our state. And if Sacramento comes through, we will match each one of those dollars and have a clear path for housing for every unhoused Angelenos. And thanks to this council's outstanding work last week to pass the permanent supportive housing and motel conversion ordinances, that money doesn't have to wait. We will put it to work right now. And just think about the motels. There's 10,000 motel rooms in the city, and even if just 10% of them came on board, we could house thousands of people in coming years. In Los Angeles, we are seizing this moment, fighting to make sure that our children don't have to ask us anymore, why is that woman sleeping on a bench, Daddy? Doesn't she have someone to take care of her? The answer is yes. We are going to take care of her. The city of Los Angeles is going to take care of her and bring her home. I love this city. This is a city where everyone belongs. Immigrants and dreamers. There are teachers and our nurses and our engineers, the men and women who work in our hospitals. Immigrants are first responders and entrepreneurs, opening up 64% of the new businesses in LA on our main streets. Immigrants make our city stronger. And when they know that police officers are there to protect them, not to ask them where they're from, we are all safer. That's why the city launched the LA Justice Fund, which is, together with our county and our philanthropic partners, connecting immigrants who face the threat of deportation and families being split apart with legal services. It's why I strengthened Special Order 40 with Chief Charlie Beck this year. And let me take a moment And let me take this moment, because this is the last chance I'll be able to do it while he's chief, to thank Charlie Beck, who's retiring this summer after more than 40 years of extraordinary work. Stand up, Charlie. I got to know Charlie when we were both much younger, not to imply that we're the same age, but Charlie was a captain in the Rampart Division. I was a young council member, and I saw his work there. Now as mayor and as my police chief, I've seen him build a department that is now a North Star for law enforcement around the world. I'm so proud of his work, of your work, Charlie, and of the work of the men and women of this department who have built deeper trust between officers and the communities that they serve, and have turned the tide on rising crime. 3 years ago, we gathered in Northridge, and during that State of the City address, I told you our city's violent crime numbers were going up. I also said that I would own that news, take responsibility for it, and together we would work to change that story. I said we'd double Metropolitan Division officers, bring additional officers to neighborhoods experiencing crime spikes, that we'd expand our domestic abuse response teams citywide so civilians could roll out with officers to help break the cycle of violence for survivors. I'm grateful to Councilmember Martinez for her work on this issue. And I said we would focus on getting guns and shooters off of our streets, invest millions of new dollars in expanding our gang reduction and youth development program to allow more neighborhoods to benefit from prevention and intervention services that save lives and that transform lives as well. Together we did that work. Our approach was bold, proactive, and responsive. Just this past year, we took it further, standing up the Community Safety Partnership in South LA, in a neighborhood where residents had been living with violence for too long. CSP puts officers on a 5-year assignment in a single place, so they can get to know the names of the people they serve and vice versa. They can build trust with the community and work with residents to make LA safer. Working with Councilmember Harris Dawson, we brought the CSP to Harvard Park, a neighborhood that the LA Times described not too long ago as one of the deadliest neighborhoods in the city. And since we started that program, there has not been a single homicide in the neighborhood since. We're always working hard to continue improving the LAPD, focusing on relationship-based policing, putting transparency and accountability at the center of everything that we do. Los Angeles is the largest city in the country to outfit every patrol officer with a body camera, and we're making those videos available to the public. And this past year, we instituted mandatory training for officers in implicit bias and de-escalation. These efforts to empower our officers and our communities are yielding results. Last year, after 2 years of crime increases, crime was flat. And this year, it's going down. Burglary from cars, down more than 4%. Auto theft, down 12%. The overall rate of property crime, down almost 7%. Because you shouldn't have to worry about things that you work hard for and save for will be taken right from your home or your car. We launched a public education campaign with Councilmember Englander on the importance of always locking your doors, and adopt a predictive crime-fighting strategy to identify patterns earlier, anticipate where burglars and thieves will strike next, and get police officers there before they can. This year, we've also seen a promising drop in more serious crimes. Homicides in LA, I'm proud to announce, are down 15%. And even more, the number of Angelenos struck by bullets is down a staggering 29% this year. LA, I know this city council and I heard you when you said you wanted a stronger police presence in the neighborhoods you live in. So we added nearly 500,000 additional patrol hours to our streets, the most effort. And 2 years ago, we stood up the Community Safety Operations Center, or CSOC, in South LA, a command post where specially trained and equipped officers can pool their information to pinpoint their actions. For instance, if a gang-related shooting occurs on a particular block, CSOC allows us to anticipate where a retaliation might occur, deploy resources proactively, from police officers to gang intervention workers, and to get them on the ground immediately. The model works. Last year, LAPD's South Bureau saw the lowest number of homicides and victims shot since 1973, the year that the South Bureau was created. And we're going to continue that momentum citywide. Together with Councilmember Englander and your budget chair, Mr. Krikorian, we're authorizing another 500,000 hours of expanded patrol. And we're taking the CSOC to the Valley, the West Side, and Central Los Angeles so every community can benefit from the success that we saw in the South Bureau. And one other thing we're going to continue doing, we're going to continue to go after guns. You know, the conversation on gun violence seems to have stalled out in Washington, where our national leaders are acting like teenagers or toddlers. Wait, that's not fair to our teenagers or toddlers, especially when teenagers are providing the leadership that our elected leaders aren't showing right now. And while our national representatives won't lead, young people across America and all of us here are taking action. In LA, we don't wait for another mass shooting, another devastated family, another terrorized neighborhood. Last month, in the wake of the tragedy in Parkland, I met with LA high school students in my office as they shared their experiences and their fears and their hope for change. I felt the power of our young people in the speech that LA's own Edna Chavez gave in Washington, D.C. during the March for Our Lives. Edna, stand up for a minute. Edna's with us here today. Edna represents who we are, our heart. She described the trauma of losing her brother Ricardo to a bullet when he was just 14 years old, right in front of their family's home. And I know what Edna said is true. La lucha sigue. The fight continues. No child should wake up in the middle of the night to gunfire. No parent should have to think twice about dropping their kid off at school. So we will keep fighting. In fact, last year we took 7,300 guns off the streets of LA, more than the last 5 years. We stood up one of the very first crime gun intelligence centers in this nation to match guns to crimes and crimes with criminals. And here in LA, since I've been your mayor, we've passed common sense legislation together to ban the possession of high-capacity magazines, to require gun owners to lock their weapons up. And City Attorney Fuhrer is already taking action on that legislation. Thank you. In Los Angeles, we do what Washington can't seem to get done. We take guns away from dangerous people who have no business having them. This year, I directed LAPD to start 2018 by clearing the list of prohibited gun owners. In just the last few weeks, our officers seized 78 firearms from people who are no longer allowed to have them. Felons, people with a history of domestic violence or severe mental health issues. And I am pleased to announce that last Wednesday, our officers brought that list of prohibited gun owners in the city of Los Angeles down to 0. Thank you, Chief Beck. Thank you, Jackie Lacey, as well, for your great work. Chief Beck, District Attorney Lacey know that when our streets are free of crime, we are reminded who those streets belong to, all of us. And when Angelinos feel safe, they chat with their neighbors on the front lawn. They go for a walk, or a jog, or a bike ride. our streets not only become safer and friendlier, they become healthier too. Today in LA County, we have a crisis. More than 23% of adults are struggling with obesity. Almost 40% are considered overweight. Our diabetes rates are skyrocketing. And we shouldn't be an unhealthy city when we host the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games. LA should be a model of health and fitness. That's why we're showing another way forward as a city that invests in children's health, confidence, and social skills through sports and recreational opportunities. A city where no child is left on the bench. We discovered a few years ago that just 1 in 4 kids that was participating in our city's fitness and recreation programs were girls. Girls Play LA, led by your First Lady, Amy Elaine Wakeland, helped us turn a corner on that. And today, girls make up an all-time high of 45% of participants. And we did that without taking a single spot away from a boy. You see, this is about putting an end to the days when gender or a tight family budget placed an Angelino on the sidelines and made them less healthy. We believe that a zip code shouldn't determine a child's health, and we're changing that in LA with the help of some incredible partners, like the LA Chargers, who just last week pledged to fund sports in our Summer Night Lights program, from uniforms to referees. Just a few weeks ago, we partnered with the Annenberg and the LA Clippers Foundation, who are refurbishing every basketball court, indoor and outdoor, including the gymnasiums, across the city in every neighborhood. But our work doesn't end as we upgrade facilities, because we know that too many families simply can't afford the program fees. And that's where our historic deal with the International Olympic Committee comes in. It's the first time in Olympic history that a host city is receiving money for youth sports before the games even arrive. $160 million, to be exact. And that money will help us expand access to low-cost sports programming across Los Angeles. And this summer, we're diving right in so that more children throughout our city can learn to swim. In this country, 64% of African American and 45% of Latino children don't know how to swim. A skill that not only increases their fitness, but keeps them safe, because drowning is the second leading cause of accidental death for children under 14. This summer, we are going to double enrollment in our swimming programs in LA. That means tens of thousands of children across LA will head back to school in the fall knowing how to swim. And it's just the first of many initiatives we'll roll out ahead of the Olympic Games to make LA the healthiest city in America, and to show the world what a city that is strong, fit, and inclusive looks like in 2028. We've seen some incredible leadership from young people this year, mentioned Edna, but it's why I've selected 2 remarkable young athletes to be the face of our movement. As our youth sports ambassadors, they represent our very best, and they embody our goals, inspiring everyone to reach for their dreams on and off the field. Our first ambassador is Emma Lemore. Stand up, Emma. Turn around so they can see you. Emma is a 15-year-old Angelino, and she will be the first to tell you that growing up wasn't always easy. Cerebral palsy meant that while other kids had play dates or spent time with family, Emma was in and out of the doctor's office and physical therapy sessions. But that hasn't stopped her from doing amazing things. Everyone who knows Emma will tell you she's a star athlete and a star student. She graduated top of her class in middle school. Now in high school, you're likely to find her in the swimming pool, making waves, out on the track, staying a step ahead of the competition, or out in her community working as a PATH volunteer, helping homeless Angelinos. We live in a city of angels, and Emma, you remind us of what that means. And don't go anywhere. And she's joined by, I don't know if you'll have to stand on a chair for everybody to see you, but Maxwell Bunchy Young, 11-year-old. Maxwell Young is known as Bunchy, 11-year-old who was the Sports Illustrated Sports Kid of the Year in 2017. No, wait for it. It's coming. He scored 12 more touchdowns in a season than Todd Gurley did. And he was the fastest 9-year-old in America in 2016, setting the record by running the 100-meter dash in 12.45 seconds. A couple of months ago, Maxwell visited me at City Hall and told me that he dreams of winning an Olympic gold right here in his backyard in 2028. But you want to hear what's even cooler? His second goal is to stand right here and be mayor of the city of Los Angeles. Sports Ambassador Young today, Mayor Young tomorrow. Sounds about right, if Emma doesn't beat you to it. Thank you both so much. You see, here in LA, you guys can sit down, you're good. We don't just believe in making young people more physically fit. We're also focused on their minds, helping them stay in school, to graduate, and to go on to college. Last year, 222,000 young Angelenos got their first library card through our Student Success Program. Thank you, Superintendent and board members, for making that real. Because I know what a big impact that little card can have on a child's life. My mom used to sometimes drop me off or come with me to the Sherman Oaks Branch Library, and I'd spend afternoons there as new worlds that fed my imagination and fueled my curiosity were opened through the books that were in that library. And we're giving that same opportunity to every LAUSD student, along with after-school and online help with homework and access to our library's vast digital resources. And our city's libraries, we're turning them into learning centers with STEAM education, places where we have classes so Angelenos can get on a path to citizenship, and a career online high school where we've graduated 100 students who never thought they'd ever hold a high school diploma. We're also continuing last year's expansion of LA's best, 7,000 more young Angelenos who will keep right on learning over the summer break. And we're turning our attention this year to middle school students as well, to give an extra boost to more than 2,000 students from Westlake to Hollywood. Starting in 6th grade all the way through their first year of college, these students will have access to summer classes, to mentoring, to help with applying for college, and good paid internship opportunities. And we'll keep pushing in our Promise neighborhoods, where we once had almost half of the students dropping out, but where through our work, almost 90% of LAUSD students now put on that cap and gown and graduate. And we've more than doubled the rate of students in these high-poverty neighborhoods who graduate ready for college. When those students graduate, they can move from a Promise neighborhood to our College Promise, joining more than 4,000. Thank you, Chancellor. Joining more than 4,000 LAUSD graduates who attended community college for free this past year. What does that mean? That means that this year, in the first year of College Promise, full-time community college enrollment of LAUSD graduates increased in our community college system by 40%. In fact, the program was so good that the state followed suit and created the California College Promise, guaranteeing all California students one free year of tuition. Los Angeles leads the state just as this state leads the nation. So California, LA sees you, and we're raising you. And today I'm proud to announce that we will send our current College Promise class back to campus in the fall with a second free year of tuition. Here in LA, we don't just want our young people to attend classes for a year or two. We want them to graduate with a degree or a trade or an acceptance letter to a 4-year university, to enter the workforce with the experience and the skills they need to succeed. This past year, my Higher LA's youth program connected almost 17,000 young Angelenos to paid summer jobs. When I started, that was only 5,000. And we're pushing hard to make sure that every young person can get her foot in the door, especially in our city's signature industries. This year, I joined leaders in the entertainment industry to launch the Evolve Entertainment Fund, to create opportunities for young women and people of color. And to start, we are placing this summer 250 Angelenos in paid internships in Hollywood. These aren't your typical summer gigs, just making copies or getting coffee. Evolve interns get industry mentors. They'll spend time at the new Netflix office, learn how to light sets on a soundstage with a union member, and practice their elevator pitch. You see, if we want Hollywood to tell the stories of tomorrow, it must reflect the face of our city today, with directors, talent agents, camera operators, animators, and screenwriters who are as diverse as they are talented. A well-run city, a prosperous city, a safe city, a city of opportunity. That's who we are. The challenges before us never dampen our optimism because we are a city that works. And I want to say to anyone who wants to understand who Americans are, don't look to DC, come to LA. While they are big on shutdowns, we're big on opportunity. While they hand out tax breaks to billionaires, we raise the wages of our low-wage workers. They're talking about raising tariffs on our allies around the world while we're setting records out of LAX and our port with $400 billion of trade last year. They pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement, we adopt those goals and cut greenhouse gas emissions by 11% in a single year, the equivalent of taking 737,000 cars off the road. And while they put people down, here in LA, we lift people up. That's what Michael Adams did, together with his fellow sanitation worker, Kurt Boyer, Councilmember Rue's district, when they pulled 13-year-old Jesse Hernandez out of a sewer pipe, an Easter miracle that ended a desperate 12-hour search in Griffith Park. We put everything on the line when our fellow Angelenos need us, as Officer Joy Park did, when she was, just after Christmas, ambushed and shot during an investigation. We work to protect the people of this city, as firefighter Daniel Smithers showed. I saw him with Councilmember Koretz during the Skirball fire, and he described the second-degree burns he got at the beginning of that fire, but he spent another 30 hours pushing through that pain to protect our lives and our homes. That's the Angeleno spirit. Can I ask you all three to stand up, please? They're right here. Thank you all. And 10 years from now, when an Angeleno hoists the Olympic torch and runs it into the Coliseum to light a flame that will burn 100 feet over this city, the world will see and will feel that same spirit. They will know our American city, a city that will have made a decade of historic investments, that will have created extraordinary new opportunities, that will have fought and won battles to protect our people and reclaim our values, and will have joined hands to accelerate the kind of transformation that only happens once in a generation. Here in LA, we see that day ahead because of the power that we hold in our hands now, the power to imagine and to create a place that our children, all of our children, deserve to inherit tomorrow. This is an era of growth and of change in LA, and I'm confident that when our story is told, it will be remembered that we were the ones who looked to the heavens, yes, but we also looked straight in front of us, to our streets, to empower the people who needed us most today. We were the ones who invested our energy and our resources in a future that some of us may never see, but that our grandchildren will cherish. A city that doesn't let a single person suffer on our streets. A city where every one of our basic services is delivered to all Angelenos in a way that is just and fair. A city that stands behind you. A city that stands beside you. A city that opens the doors of opportunity when you graduate, or when you start a career, or when you settle into a home to raise your family. Los Angeles, we are on our way to an even brighter future, and together we are going to get there. And when we do, we will know that we were the ones who raced out of the starting block, who went faster and farther, who broke the finish line tape even when it seemed beyond our grasp. That's who we are in Los Angeles. It's who we always will be. Angelenos are strong, and so is the state of our city. Thank you all, and God bless you.
For all the dreamers out there with your head in the clouds, don't have no fear. For all the lovers out there with your heart on your sleeve, make this your year. Take a chance, step out on the ledge, don't listen to the doubts that are in your head, and change your world. Yeah, I said change your world.
Duele el corazón, solo quería poder vivir mejor. Duele el alma, duele el corazón, de no saber es el mayor dolor. Duele el alma, duele el corazón, si no sé lo que quieres, es señor. Pero cuando a mí me digan que me debo de callar, haré todo lo contrario, ya verán.